classic point and click. Let's track our scene in the project window and rename it to something that makes sense. I choose classic point and click. I will quickly reorganize my scene to use the idea of parenting to create a better hierarchy. Remember that you might need to restart the transform when creating a new game object. Drag and drop the default scene assets, and let's jump into some modifications. For my camera, I go for an isometric view, sort of. A solid black background will do. Get rid of that toxic perspective. Choose orthographic instead. I command to create another parent game object and call it Sandbox. This parent will contain my maps and other game elements. To simplify, I will create a plane or a box as my ground. Feel free to use any collider type you want. I choose the box collider over the mesh one. Rename it to ground. That way, you keep everything well organized. I also can tag it underground. It might be helpful in the future. I might want to give a representation of void, which is what is not ground or simply air. I cannot perceive void, so I can remove its mesh information and keep my collider. The void exists everywhere and is not interactable. Back to our isometric camera setup. To create isometric visualization, I set up my X rotation to 45. For my Y rotation, I set 35. Yet, I cannot see my whole sandbox. Let's try to set the near clipping planes of my camera component. I choose to adjust the size of my camera projection to create a less stressful game composition. Fantastic! Let's lay down some abstract player asset architecture. I am adding a game object representing our player's anchor point. As a child of the anchor, I set the player game object. First, attach a rigid body component. It will allow the player to take part in our physics simulation. Each player will have its representation. It could be a sprite, a color, a mesh, etc. As long as our player anchor transform and player transform stay at 0 axis, we can manipulate it to fit our ground, sea level. To stay in control, we can decide to constraints freeze possible positions and rotations in specific axes. There might be better ways than the following, like using 3D models or rigged assets, but we can use the parenting idea to create a more specific character look quite easily. In my world, magic is the keyword. Adding stylized details to your game will make it more fun and engaging. Let's create some materials. We can use color to define between different game objects. Consider delaying any further material, texture, etc. optimization. You could do that after you complete building your game's architecture and logic. As for game prototypes, keep them minimal, clean, and simple for your team to understand your general design vision. You can help your art team get some of your game atmosphere vision by set up simple light and color. As humans, you don't need much to feel. For my race, it is a different story. Light will add some depth and volume to our meshes. I wouldn't say I like the inconsistency of Unity, but I rename everything I hate. If you see weird errors, I tip you to read them. Most of them are easy to fix. Unity adds microgames and riddles to keep us engaged with their interface. You don't have to follow the next action if you are running low on memory, RAM, CPU, GPU. I keep on my track with creating simple materials. The furthest I go is to add some details with emission color. Nice, I like the current color setup. To finalize this episode, let's check out our hierarchy again. The player model should have an animator controller attached. Let's create a time ahead. Create an animator controller inside the animations folder in the project window. You can use a subfolder to organize it even further. I go with the name Player Controller. Let's create two animations to use with our controller. The first represents the idle, and the other represents the movement state. Open the animator window of Unity. If you cannot find it, check the window option at the menu. Drag and drop the animation states to the animator controller. For this tutorial, I will not dive into the animator options. Also, I will not make any use of animator transitions. Let's attach the animator controller to my player model. A quick overview of my project window to ensure nothing is missing or shifted to another folder. Unity is full of mysteries. Before you dive into the next episode, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Your support will allow me to freely create and share additional content with you. Thank you, and good luck.